What's up, everybody? Bobby here, the Geek Guru. Geek, definitely guru, I don't know. I wanted to do a brief intro real quick here and discuss what you're about to listen to. What you're about to listen to is a podcast that I was recently on a couple weeks ago from Sean Capri. Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. Follow him on Twitter, good dude. But what happened was I went to him this past week because he was on the Geek Cast, and I said to him, hey man, I would really like to take this and put it on YouTube. Would you have a problem if I did that? There is no video to this, so you could do one of two things. You can watch this and there'll be an image up there that I made and such, and keep that going, or you can go to iTunes or whatever, however you get your podcast, and listen to the actual podcast in full. That would be awesome. Go subscribe to this podcast if you like it. I'll put the links down below and all that stuff. But Sean is a really good guy. I had a lot of fun on his podcast, and I felt like fans of mine, people that like me and follow me and all that stuff, would like a backdoor view or a peek into the window, if you will, of my life growing up. Because I discuss a lot of stuff like how I got my original NES and how I got my Super Nintendo and a lot of different things like my Nintendo Power collection and all the stuff that I talk about a lot of times. But this is a history lesson per se of what my life was a little bit growing up and how I acquired a bunch of stuff. So enjoy.
Hey everyone, it's me, Sean Capri, and welcome to episode 16 of a brand new rebooted We the Gamercast, hosted by WeTheNerdy.com. This show publishes on iTunes and everywhere you get your favorite podcasts, I assume, every single Monday. If you're new, here is the deal. Each week I have sweet hangs with a stranger from the internet, and we talk about video games. For example, a couple weeks ago I had Josh Brandt from the Life of Gaming podcast, and we had an amazing chat, and I was actually lucky enough to join the guys over on their show a short while later. So if you like this episode, maybe go back, check a few others while you're at it. Hey, maybe you're pooping right now. Maybe you're on the bus or just having a coffee, and I'm super jealous that you're having a coffee at the moment. Why not take a second and go over to iTunes, rate this podcast? A nice 5-star rating goes a really long way to getting this thing noticed. I don't really have a dime to invest into marketing or anything like that, so it's really good to get this thing noticeable on the iTunes store, so I really appreciate you guys giving me a hand. Nice old rating. Of course, if you feel inclined to give a 1-star, maybe you just skip the whole rating thing. You can say hi over at the We the Nerdies Facebook fan group. Just search We the Nerdy fan group at the top of Facebook, and somebody will let you in. Don't be a lurker. We're friendly. Leave us a comment, have a chat, tell us what you're up to, all that good stuff. Now that all that housekeeping is out of the way, just to let you guys know, this last week I played through the Uncharted collection, the last 2 games anyways. The first one just was bugging out on me. So I played through those games, and then I platinumed the First Light DLC for Infamous on PS4, and that was just some of the best gaming I've experienced in a very long time. And when that platinum charm came up, I kind of didn't know what to do with myself. It was the ultimate completion for that game. I don't get too many platinums, but I think just over the last little while I've been playing just so many games, and it all culminated with this ridiculous platinum that kind of came up out of nowhere. And so when I finished that, I didn't really want to play anything really at all. So I didn't really know what to do with myself. I was feeling a little down. Of course, even just doing a podcast is kind of like you don't get paid anything, so you're kind of wondering maybe do you keep doing this, and is it worth the energy and worth the time and stuff? And so I had a very introspective week, just thinking about all my extracurriculars. I guess I was kind of thinking about, and then I had a chat with Bobby, the Geek Guru. And he just lifted me up out of this whole funk that I was in this last little while. I would definitely call it a funk. And I had a really great chat, and just kind of going back to talk about good times and good memories about falling in love with video games and why we do what we do. It's really great to be able to do this and find new fans, fans of video games. I mean, fans of the industry. and learn just how we all got to be in the point that we're at now. Of course, the internet is just bringing us all together, but there was a time when, you sort of liked video games maybe just with one friend, maybe two friends. But for the most part, at least for me growing up, it was kind of like, well, there's other things to do, so maybe just take it easy on this whole video game thing. So it's kind of neat to be able to talk to somebody like that and just geek out for a good while. I have to say, Bobby is just like the greatest storyteller, so I had no problem sitting back in my chair and just listening to go on and on about how he came to be in possession of a brand new Nintendo Entertainment System and all of his milestone moments. I think you guys are for a real treat. I had a great time talking to him. One of the best storytellers. Check him out on Twitter, The Geek Gurus with an S on the end, youtube.com/The Geek Guru, no S on the end of that one. On PlayStation, he's Bobby_comics, and on Nintendo, his friends list is a little packed because he's totally a hardcore, right from the beginning, Nintendo fan. Polly8280. And yeah, I think you guys are going to have a great time. Here we are with Bobby the Geek Guru.
So that was the very first console we ever had in the house. And when the Nintendo and the NES came out, we had about probably 70, 80 Atari games.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we had a lot. But you got to also remember too, Atari at that one point was like, you could get games for free. Like you could collect cereal box proof of purchases and send them in and get a free game. And so I had Pitfall and I had River Raid and I had all the great Activision games and all that stuff. So when Nintendo came out, I played my Atari all the time, and I begged my mom and my dad to get me a Nintendo because this is the new thing. And my parents were like, "No way." We're like, "We got all them games in the other room. You want to play games? Go play them games." And I'm like, "You don't understand." And they're like, "Nope, we're not doing it." And I was like, "Okay." And and to their credit, I mean, they were spending money on the other games too. It wasn't just the free games and things like that. So I think I finally conned them to get me an Atari 7800.
Yeah.
And that's because that was backwards compatible. And that was just garbage. That game was horrible. Or that system was horrible. It was great because I could play my old games, but there was really nothing that came out for it. The system died really quick. So then I went back to begging my parents. And I think what kind of started to do it was my cousins got them. And when my parents saw, especially my dad, me being a big sports guy when I was a kid, my dad being a big sports guy all through my life, what did it for us was when Mike Tyson's Punch Out came out. Yeah. And my dad saw that and he was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing," and so that kind of started it, at least pushing the ball a little bit in that direction. I remember one year, me and my brother really got really good grades in school. And my mom was like, "You know what? You guys have been doing really good lately. I'm going to get you an NES." Problem being, you couldn't get them nowhere. This is a year and a half after they launched, and we still couldn't find them anyplace. So I'm like, okay.
Because you didn't have Best Buy either at the time, right?
We had nothing. Nothing.
I bought my first console at a Superstore, which is in Canada. I don't think you guys have that.
No.
It's like a Publix or something like that. It's like a grocery store.
Yeah. What happened? What happened was Sears was the big store at the time, and Sears Roebuck. And the way it would work is you would get this big, gigantic catalog at Christmas time. well, you get it throughout the year, but at Christmas time it was always bigger. And you would flip through, and you would order stuff, and then you would have to go to the store to pick it up. So you would call it in, my mom would call it in, or go to the store and order the stuff, and then they would call us and say, hey, your order's in, you got a week to pick it up. And then you would go wait in this crazy line to go pick up your products that you got. So I saw the NES in there, and I said to my mom, can we get it? And she said, yeah. And she said, get that and pick a game out for you guys or whatever. So we did, but it was back ordered. And, man, it went 6 months and still no phone call. And I'm like, this is, yeah, man, it was bad. So finally, I'm like, I got to do something here. This is nuts. What do I do? So it was like a Saturday morning, and I start calling all the local stores.
How old are you at this point? Like, you're getting good grades, you're in school, but how old are you?
I would think I was probably 13.
Okay.
Right around there, 12, 13.
Yeah.
I got a vibe for what's going on, and I know what I'm doing. Because I think I was 11. 11 or 12, because I was in 8th grade.
Yep.
So I was right around that age. So I started calling like KB Toys and all the different stores that I thought might have them. So I called a KB Toy store, and they go, we got 2. And I'm like, oh my God, can you hold? Yeah, they're like, I'm like, can you please hold it? And they're like, no, you got to come get it. And I'm like, dude.
Flat out, no.
Yeah, they're like, no, we don't hold them. You first come, first serve. So now I have to go beg my mom to please take me over there. So I run out in the kitchen. I'm like, Mom, please. They got one there. Can we go get it? And she's like, yeah, get your brother. We'll go over. And I was like, oh, thank God. So now the whole time, the mall's probably 20 minutes from the house. I'm freaking out because I'm like, Mom, you got to go faster. And she's like, I'm driving the speed. Shut up. And she's like, if you don't stop, I'm going to turn around. You ain't getting it at all. Now it's even worse because I can't say anything about her speed she's driving. And I also have to worry about some jerk coming in and swooping up my NES. So we get to the mall. We run inside. And they got one. They actually sold one just before we walked in the door. So they had one left. We get it. My mom says, you know what? You guys waited a very long time for this. Get 2 games. So we got the original. We got the NES. It came packed with Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
I got Punch Out. No. My brother picked up Punch Out, and then I got Zelda. And,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we walked out the store with like the Holy Trinity of NES games, because you had Mario packed in, you had Punch Out. To me is one of the greatest video games ever for me, and then Zelda, which I can't speak highly enough about Zelda. So that's how I got my system. So for me growing up, it was the NES. The NES was where it was at. That was that was the be all end all. To me, when you talk retro, that's retro for me.
Yeah.
And then, I go into the Super Nintendo. Like, I'm a very big Nintendo fan.
Let's dive into the obsession. So before we even go into to Super Nintendo, because I know that it runs deep, but I'm almost my entire life, it's kind of like until doing kind of podcasts and meeting people in the community and talking about games as freely as we do, it was very much subdued. Like, you don't want to let on like how crazy you're thinking about this stuff all the time. Yeah. So you get an NES, you've got the Holy Trinity of Games. Mm-hmm. Do you get like Nintendo Power? Do you have posters on the wall? Like what happens after the NES takes its home now?
I'll take you a step further than that. Okay, so I go home and I open it up, and they had this thing in this little card that came in the box, and it said, fill out this card and send it away, and we'll send you a free magazine. I was like, okay. So I do. I send it in, and it wasn't even Nintendo Power. It was like Nintendo Weekly or Nintendo whatever. It was like some little tiny thin magazine. I got 3 issues of that. And then I got the thing that said, you're going to get because you signed up for this, you're going to get 1 issue of Nintendo Power for free. So I got the very first Nintendo Power issue for free, and then you had to buy the rest. So, yeah, I had subscription to Nintendo Power.
Do you still have any of them?
I have.
You're taking pictures of them? I'm not sure if they're yours or if you're finding screenshots or not.
No, well, that one I don't have. I wish I still had the first one. But, I'm actually... The problem is it's like $100 to buy it now. So the kid in me wants to buy it, and then the adult's like, really, man, $100 for a magazine? Like, come on. So I'm still searching though, because if I can find one for a decent price, I'll pick it up. Now, if it's
only the
condition,
number one that you're looking for?
Oh no, I've been trying to pick them. I don't go crazy. But basically, my bank account is very diminished because of Amiibo, as most people are. But no, but in all joking aside, like I truly, when I can find them here and there, or when it hits me to go, hey, go look on eBay and see if there's anything out there. The problem is the shipping, so it's a little tough. But like when I go to certain comic book shops, I'll run in and I'll be like, hey, do you got Nintendo Power? Stuff like that. So, but with us, and then we used to like call the Nintendo hotline as well.
Yes. So you were paying for this. So it was like what, $4.99 a minute, or $7.99 a minute, or something crazy.
No,
like
it wasn't. It wasn't crazy like that. I think it was more like $1.99.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, come on. Back then, in the 80s, that's high. And
that's how I remember it. Yeah, being
and
like,
that's a
what?
minute. That's per minute. So not only that, you're talking about like you're calling and it isn't a 1 minute conversation. Like the one thing I will say about the hotline operators were they did try to push you off the phone. They didn't let you just go on there. And I believe at some point they even got it to like you had a three question maximum. You could ask 3 questions and that's it. They also wouldn't just give you the answers. Like if I said like, "Where's the warp whistle at?" No, we can't tell you that. You have to ask something else. I remember the one time that we called a lot. It was me, my best friend, and my cousin. And we were playing Metal Gear for the NES, and we were looking for key cards and stuff. So my cousin just didn't care. He was just one of those kids. Everybody's got that one cousin that doesn't care if he pushes the buttons with his parents, and his parents can tell him not to do something. He don't care. He's still going to do it anyway. So we would be like, Jamie, go call, Nintendo Power. Ask him where the key card is. And he's like, okay. And he'd walk in and he'd go call. Well, he calls up and the guy's like beating around the bush. And he's, before I get into this story, like, what am I allowed to say and what am I not allowed to say?
We put explicit on it, yeah.
Okay, good enough. All right, so fuck. We'll just get that out of the way. All right, so he gets on. Now, this is a 10-year-old kid, okay? Gets on the phone and calls Nintendo. And he's like, I'm looking for key card 6. Could you tell me where it is? And he's like, oh, we really can't tell you where that is. And he's like, okay, well, can you tell me what building it's in? No, we really can't tell you that. And he's like, well, what can you tell me? And he's like, well, if you ask the proper question, I could give you the answer for it. And he's like, how big is Snake's cock? And the guy's like, what? And he's like, how big is Snake's penis? I want to know. And he's like, 2 millimeters or something like that. Like he's being a wise ass back to him now. And he's like, then he asks, I forget the girl's name that you're talking to all the time. He asks how big her boobs are, and they hang up on him. And I'm like, so he comes back in the room, and we're all in the hallway, and he just starts laughing, walks by us, and we're like, dude, where did he say the card was? And he's like, he didn't tell us. And we're like, what building is it in? And he's like, he wouldn't tell me. And he's like, well, what did you find out? He's like, well, I know that Snake's junk is this size. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, dude. Like, that's all you got? It was crazy, man. We were just... That was the
How
one cousin.
Nintendo is that? Like, right? It's so meta.
Yeah,
even the line where they say, call us and we'll give you answers. They're like, no, this is a game too.
Yeah,
you have to ask the right way.
You have to ask the proper question. We're not going to give you all the answers. And it was like, come on, dude, I'm paying you. Just give me the answer. It was nuts.
Imagine that today. Even though we know there are guides everywhere for free, imagine if that phone line existed today, and you got because you can record any phone call now, right? Too. So if anybody actually heard that, if that went kind of viral, that would just explode. Let's
look at it like this. Now everybody knows. Okay, everybody knows that there is a code to get to Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Right. 007-373-5963. Memorized. That's how many times I put that code into the game. It's insane. I'm 42 years old, and I remember 30 years later that code like it's yesterday. It's the only I can't remember my phone number, but I can remember that. So, so we would call Nintendo and go, is there a code? Because we knew there was codes and stuff. And we'd say, hey, is there a code to get to Tyson? No, there's no code. That code don't exist. Now, you're lying to us.
Flat out lying to you.
I'm paying you money to call, and you're lying to me. I should have been like, Nintendo, you're done at that point. But I was like, nah, it's, you know how it goes.
And if you're going to forgive him for that, you're going to forgive him for decades and decades of misnomers in the future. Yeah.
Unfortunately. And Nintendo fans, it's like we're sadists, man. We just love to get beat up.
Are you getting jaded a little bit by this point? Is it jumping in the future a little bit?
No,
no.
You're
running out of energy a little, or
no. I'll be honest with you, as of even right now, like I like I'm probably more at this point right now. I'm probably more not so much like on the band. I mean, I'm on the bandwagon. Don't get me wrong, but I'm more like I'll question some of their decisions. Up to the Wii, I was like whatever they said. Like they were like with the Wii, they're like we don't need HD. HD's junk. That we're good with our standard. And I would sit there and toe the company line and be like, that HD's garbage. And then when I finally got it, I was like, isn't this beautiful? Look at this. Why can't everybody be like this? And so many people are like, we've had that thing for like 6 years. What are you talking about? You know? Right. So, yeah, I'm at that point now where I actually question some of the stuff they say. But even when they're lying to me about the Nintendo Power stuff and I realize it, I'm like, no, that's okay. They can't give us all the answers. Like, now I look at it and I go, what do you mean? I was paying you. Like, you should have said.
What a crazy company. What a crazy company. I love that.
You could have given me all the numbers except for one, and then I would have, you know what I mean? Like, make me struggle a little. But so.
I'm super impressed by your memory. Like, my brain does not work like that. Like, I think I've got maybe a few moments in my life where I could retell the story like you just did with that Nintendo. I'm curious if you have any other like milestone moments in like was it the same for the Super Nintendo for you? Do you remember like grabbing your brother and going in the car and like backseat driving and things like that?
Yeah.
That's amazing. What's that?
I'll tell you two stories real quick. The 7800, okay? So I told you I was begging my parents for 7800, and my parents were like, "No, you're not getting it. You're not getting it." And it was Christmas time. So my best friend comes over to my house. My dad's sick. Now, I know a couple days prior, my parents went Christmas shopping for me and my brother. But my best friend comes over to the house, and we walk outside, and he goes, what's your dad got in the back of the truck? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, I bet you got Christmas presents back there. And I go, no, man. I said, my dad's in construction, man. He's got, like, all these different tools and, like, how to shoot shoot grades and stuff. He's got these it's called a transit, and it shoots the grades of the dirt and all that. Come here, I'll show you. He's got stakes and stuff. Come here, I'll show you. We go in the back. There's Christmas presents.
Yeah.
And there's the Atari 7800. And me and my friend start screaming at the top of our lungs. I'm like, oh my God, I got it. We're high-fiving each other. All of a sudden I realize, dude, I'm in the back of my dad's truck. The house is only 5 feet away. If my dad sees me, he's going to kill me. So, we jump out of the car, we run through the woods, we run about 30, 40 feet into the woods, and we start like high-fiving and hugging each other like we won the Super Bowl. Like this is the dumbest, it's a 7800. 6 months from now, I'm going to find out it's the biggest turd in the market, and I'm going to hate the thing. So, that was the one story. Second story was the NES, or the Super Nintendo. So, the Super Nintendo comes out, and I'm seeing the graphics, and I'm seeing Mario World, and I'm seeing Link to the Past. Mm-hmm. You know, we don't have video because we don't have the internet, none of that. Like, I would get Nintendo Power, so I would see all this stuff, and I'm reading every day. And all my friends, we go to lunch. Like, the internet is the cafeteria. You go sit around the table, and your buddies are sitting there talking to you. Like, the Facebook groups we have now, where you're arguing, your fanboys are arguing, you're doing it at the cafeteria table. That's the way it was. You know, you had the Sega Genesis kids and you had the Nintendo kids.
And you basically have like one source for your information too. Is probably Nintendo Power, and I don't even know what else was around at that time. Maybe EGM.
EGM really wasn't there yet. GamePro was the other one.
GamePro, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. GamePro was coming on. GamePro was GamePro and Nintendo Power. EGM was starting to come on the forefront a couple years later. But at this time, you know, when it was the Master System against Nintendo, there was no question who was better. Like, Nintendo crushed it. But now, you had these kids with Sega Genesis, and that's double the power of the NES. well,
what else do you need to even talk about?
Yeah, it's 8-bit, 16-bit, but like the games were still better on the NES. Like games weren't better on the Genesis. So we had this argument every day. So when the time comes for the Super Nintendo to come out, I'm begging my mom, I'm like, Mom, please. And they went to the same old thing. Because I probably, with the NES, I easily had 100 games, 150 games. Like I probably had close to 200 games, honestly.
You're speaking in past tense as if you don't have these games anymore.
I don't. I got rid of them all, man.
No. Okay, we'll talk about
we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
So I had about 200 games because what I did was at that point I'm 13 years old. I'm working for my grandfather. My dad runs the company. My mom works there too. We had a recycling facility where people would bring in like concrete and asphalt and things like that, and we would recycle it and resell it to everybody. So during the summer times, my dad at 13 years old, he's like, "You're coming to work for us." So I'm getting paid $2 an hour.
Yeah.
$2 an hour. $1 has to go in the bank. The other dollar is mine to do whatever I want to do with it. Well, I'm 13 years old, man. What am I spending my money on? Nintendo games. But I bought a brand new Nintendo game every single week. Every week, my mom would go food shopping, and I would go to, there was a store, she would go to the Acme to go grocery shopping down the street. It was like not even a block. It was probably like 6 stores down because the shopping malls were outside. It wasn't like an indoor shopping mall. Mm-hmm. It was a store called James Way. So I would go to James Way, and I would pick out a brand new Nintendo game every single time. And then occasionally, on Friday nights, my parents, we would go to the actual mall and go inside, and on those nights I would go to like KB or whatever video game stores were in there, because Sears sold video games, KB sold them, Suncoast Pictures, they started to sell them.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, this is going back. So
yeah.
And I would just go and I would find the best deals. Like the first process would go hit all the stores, see what they had. Then I would go, okay, this has this for this one, and I would count my money up and I go, what can I get the most of? And I would try to walk out with 2-3 games if I could. So
just methodical at 13 years old.
Yeah, because it was deep. The hunger for games was
the
deep.
The motivation is there, yeah.
Yeah. So now, mind you, I have 200 games. I go to my mom. I said, "The Super Nintendo's coming out. I want it," and they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Why?" And she's like, "You got 200 games in your bedroom. What do you need this for?" And I'm like, "Mom, you don't understand." I had to sit down with her.
Sit down. Let me tell you.
I'm like, "Look, Mom. Here's the graphics," and I had the Nintendo powers out. Here's the graphics on the NES, and then this is what it's going to look like on that. And she's like, "It looks the same to me." And I'm like, "Mom, stop. Like, stop. You're not talking to Dad. You're talking to me now, okay? Look, please buy this for me." And she's like, "Your father will never let me buy this for you." And I'm like, "Mom, come with me." I take her in my bedroom, and I'm like, "Look how I keep all my stuff. Yeah. It's pristine. Like, I had shells, and I said, now come here." We go into my brother's room, and he has stuff all over, dude. Like, when I tell you it's like a bomb went off, it's like a bomb went off. And I'm like, I don't treat my stuff like this. I treat my stuff good. Come on, please. Yeah. She said, "Let me talk to your father." That's the only reason I was able to get a Super Nintendo, was because when I took her into 2 bedrooms and she saw how pitiful my brother kept his stuff, and they saw how pristine I kept mine, she goes, "You know what?" She goes, "But you better play them NES games." I go, "Mom, I'll still play the NES games, promise you." I said, "But I need to, play the Super Nintendo. I want the Super Nintendo."
Not only am I going to play these games now, but I'm going to be talking about them on the internet, which you don't know about right now. It's going to be a thing, and I'm going to be talking about the internet with people all over the world. Like, don't worry about it. This is a big thing.
30 years from now, I'm going to have a conversation on the internet with some guy from Canada. I don't even know what he looks like now. I don't even know where Canada is, but I'm telling you, it's going to be big. So she's like, well, we'll see. No promises. So Christmas comes around, and I'm opening everything up. And my parents, at this point, because I don't believe in Santa Claus, spoilers, there's no such thing as Santa Claus.
Not a dude.
So I don't believe in Santa Claus at this point. Turn around, my mom comes up with this idea where we had an ornament that looked like a stocking, and it had the family initial on it, and there was a letter stuffed in it. The letter from Santa Claus, And it says like, oh, since you guys don't believe in us, or since you two don't believe in me no more, I decided to trick you and hide some of your gifts. So it became like a scavenger hunt. My mom did, where she would go, where does your mother do the laundry every day? So me and my brother would take off to the laundry room, and there'd be like either a clue or a present with a clue. So we go to the laundry room, and there's like skateboards and all this stuff. So we're running around the house like doing all this stuff, and the final thing was I got the Super Nintendo. I don't even know what my brother got, and I could care less. I'm like,
exactly.
It was like
nothing
a blur.
Nothing else matters.
The minute I opened that box, it was like nothing. I don't even remember anything else I got that Christmas. That's the only thing I remember. And I started flipping out, screaming, hollering, and just going ballistic about it. So that was like the greatest. So for me, that was my thing. But it's funny, I'll tell you. Man, now you got me going off tangents with stories.
No, I love this. I love it.
Okay, so
we're talking.
Okay, so yeah, let me get the old guy that might have a decent memory, and we'll see if we can jog it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I love talking about this stuff. This is the stuff that I loved, man, growing up. But so we talked about the fanboys would meet around the table. Well, you always had the one kid in school that was like a great gamer. Like he was the one that did everything. Mm-hmm. I was my neighbor. Kid. Yeah, I was that kid.
Okay.
I was the first one in the area to beat Mike Tyson in Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Even to this day, I think you're the only one.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's I can't even beat him today. That's how bad it had been so long since I played. It struggles. I can go past a minute and 30, do decent against him. I think I went like a round with him a couple months ago, but I don't put in the dedication I did because this is the most played video game I'd ever played in my life. 6 months, it took me 18 months to beat him. I played that game every single day.
Yep.
During the week, I would put in an hour to 3 hours a day trying to beat it, and on weekends I'd put 4 to 6 hours every day trying to beat it. If I lost, that's why I remember the code so much, because I played him every single day.
So you just jump to Mike Tyson every time. You're not wasting your time.
Yeah, I'm not going through I just want to beat Tyson because I can beat all the rest of them, no brainer.
No problem.
No problem. But Tyson was the hard thing. So I turn around, and again, even with the Nintendo powers, it wasn't like they were saying to you like, "Hey, you need to withstand the first minute and 30 fury of uppercuts, and if you do that, then you have a chance." We didn't know because nobody could pass 20 seconds. The guy's knocking you down, and within no problem. So I beat Mike Tyson. I'm in my bedroom by myself, and I'm flipping out. And I turn around, and I'm like, "There's nobody here. Nobody's gonna believe." Like, seriously, because there was a lot of kids that would go, "I can beat Mike Tyson," and then kids would go over his house, and the kid couldn't do it. And I was like, "Oh my god, I just beat him," and I had no proof. So real quick, I run down to my cousin's house, who lived like a half mile down the street, and I run as fast as I can. And I go, I just beat Tyson. They're like, no, exactly my worst nightmare. They're all telling me I can't do it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh,
because kids playing games back in those days are full of shit.
Yes.
Everyone, they're all lying about stuff.
Yes, because I
had a friend who told me he had 3 Super Nintendos in his garage.
Yeah.
Like, they're coming up with these asinine lies. Anyways, continue.
I had a cousin that told me that when you fought King Hippo, if you beat him a certain way, if you knocked him down a certain way, he'd get back up. And I'm like, but King Hippo never gets back up in that game. So, anyway.
There's weird things that happen all the time. I'll just a quick side. Like when you go in the Super Mario 1-2, you're in the underground.
Yes.
You can hit the blocks and go above, like, and you're running on top of the score and the time and everything. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yes.
That leads us to just make up stupid shit all over the place.
And the Midas world and all that stuff that you could do, like, you get into all that stuff, so you start to think, like, well, maybe they are legit. Maybe King Hippo does get up. So you're sitting there like an idiot for months trying to replicate it, and it's not working. The beginning of the first troll in the world was people that did that stuff. So, so I run to my cousin's house, and I start telling them, and they're like, no, you didn't. I'm like, I'll prove it to you. I could do it. So I go in the bedroom, and he knocks me out.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, do it again. He knocks me out. And I'm like, all right, screw it. So the third time, I'm like, because I'm nervous. You know what I mean? Like, I got an audience here. Yeah. But I take him the distance, and I beat him by decision. Now, at the house, I TKO'd him. But here, it's a decision. So they're all flipping out. They're like, oh my God. Because first off, me just getting past the first round just blew them away. Because
Hell yeah.
none of them could do that. Me just getting past the first minute and 30 blew them away. So my uncle was a huge boxing fan. My whole family was. My grandfather used to box in the Marines when he was younger. So it's in our blood. Like, we all love boxing. And especially at that time with Mike Tyson, like, everybody's eyes was on boxing at that time. So my uncle hears all this racket. He goes, what the hell's all that noise? And they're like, Bobby just beat Mike Tyson. He just beat him. He goes, he looks at the screen. He goes, you beat him by decision? And I go, yeah. And he goes, you don't beat the champion unless you knock him out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what, are you kidding me? And I go, turn it back on.
Shit.
So now I'm mad. I'm like, turn it back on. Let's go. And I knock him out. And I'm telling you, it was the greatest game I ever played. Every move I played, every move he made, I countered it. I knocked him out in the second round. And I turn around my uncle, I go, now that I beat him, he goes, holy crap, you just beat Mike Tyson. And I'm like, and I think I'm the greatest, right? Yeah. So now I go to school. The next day. And I'm telling kids, again, nobody believes me. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I beat him 3 times. They're like, yeah, whatever. So now, I go home from school. And about an hour goes by and I hear a knock on the door. And I open the door and there's 17 kids at my front door. And they're like, you said you could beat Mike Tyson? And we're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, of course. And they're like, we want to see it. So I bring, my mom's not home from work, and we're not allowed to have no one in the house after school. And that's my first response was like, well, listen, after school, I'm not allowed to let anybody in the house. You guys,
which is like, so, yeah, you're full of shit.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Now they're like,
oh,
yeah, whatever. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Come on in. So I bring them in.
Oh, no.
They're in my bedroom, and I start, but it wasn't that fear factor, because now I had done, because a part that I'm missing from the story was after I came home, I kept playing it over and over again. I kept beating them every single time. And it just became muscle memory. Now I got them smoked. When I tell you, Sean, I turn on the game and I start playing them, and I start, I get past the first minute and 30, and the kids are like, oh my God, he just got past the minute and 30. And I'm like, that's nothing. And I'm going through, these guys, it's like I'm in an actual fight, and these guys are rabid. They're screaming. And I'm like, and I beat them, and they all start screaming and stuff. They go back to school, and now I'm like, nobody questions me again on that aspect. I would literally, this is how crazy it was. I would literally, because we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have pagers, none of that stuff. You had house phones, but you won't call people after a certain time at night. You know, because you're always afraid the parents are going to get mad or whatever. I would have people come knocking on my window at 9 o'clock at night. And I open the window, and here's my friend with his cousin. He's like, hey, we're stuck on this part in Castlevania, and we're not sure how to get through it. Can you tell us what we need to do? And I'm like, yeah, go here, do this, da-da-da. And they're like, you sure? And I'm like, I'm telling you, just go ahead and do it. Next day in school, oh my God, man, thank you so much. And I was like, it was just crazy, the stuff that took place back then. Like, nowadays, it's you don't, that stuff don't want to happen. We have the internet. You're not
forced to, right?
Yeah. Like, what's that?
You need it. You're not forced to. You can just like send a little, a quick message out on the phone, which is more powerful than anything we ever had back then.
Absolutely.
Back then, but you still had the need to know.
Yes.
And you still had to figure out a way to do it. So knocking on somebody's window at 9 a.m. or 9 at night is totally like, that's just what you did.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
the way you go about it.
That's all you have. That's it. Yeah. So that was, that was basically my that's my 2 big moments in my life that, like, I actually had, like, people screaming and going nuts. And then it was just, like, my best friend, we would go to school during the day, and his stepdad would work nights. So we'd come home from school, and we go into his bedroom, and there'd be a map for the 5th level of Zelda, the 5th dungeon, because his stepdad had played during the day because he was off during the day and he'd work at night, and he would play the map and leave us the map, and we would come in and we'd be like, oh, that's how we beat level 5, and we go through and we beat level 5. It's amazing too to me how long it took us to beat games. today you play a game, you play a game like Zelda today, and if you don't beat it within a week, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Where back then, legit, I mean, I think it took us 9 months to beat Zelda the first time because you don't know where anything is. It's like,
well, that's why I was surprised you were saying you were buying a new game every other week. Because number one, that's like every game on the NES.
Yeah,
because, they didn't really have major weekly releases like we do now.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, you do have these games that are taking you months, if not in some cases years, to beat that you'd always be going back to for years to come.
Yeah, but a lot of what I was buying was sports titles.
Yeah.
Because, again, I was a huge sports fan. So I was buying, like, RBI Baseball and Major League Baseball and baseball and Tecmo Baseball. And, I'd buy Madden wasn't out on the NES, but, like, they had a couple of football games. And, I bought Super Dodgeball. I bought Super Volleyball. Like, I was buying everything and anything, just to have new games, But there were those games that took me a long time to beat. Final Fantasy, Zelda 2. The Mario games would take you not as long, but a decent amount of time, But that was, yes, there was games that took a long time. There was also games that didn't take a long time. Because there was games like Kung Fu that, granted, it was a great game, and I loved it. But there was really, after you beat the boss, Mr. X, there was nothing really else to do. You just played the same levels over and over again. So there was a lot of games like that, it took you time to master and all that, but it wasn't that difficult to beat those games. But the big legacy games, the ones that everybody remembers, took forever. And the other thing, too, is you got to remember, we were kids. Like, we didn't think about beating games. It's like Minecraft. People play Minecraft now, and they go, oh, I'm building all this stuff. You don't realize there's something to do in that game.
Yep.
There is something to go beat and do. It's not just run around and travel and do all this stuff. But people don't realize that. People don't realize there's the end game and the Ender Dragon and all that stuff. And I feel like Minecraft is this generation's Zelda. And the reason why I say that is because, yes, you have the internet and there's things that can help you do things and all that, but like the discovery in that game and the word of mouth reminds me of the original Zelda.
The community, for sure.
Yeah, so it's a totally different ball game now than it was. But yeah, that's it did take me a while to beat certain games, but at the same time, it was I also was blowing through a lot of games. I used to have a list. Every time I beat a game, I'd write it on the list. So I would just, keep track of where it was. And I actually had my games separated on the wall, the games that I beat and the games I was still working on, and then my sports games. So
I'm starting to get a real good picture of kind of what life was like growing up and as a kid of being methodical. I mentioned that word before. This is also like starting to get into a little bit of OCD tendencies, which I connect with very personally as well. When I was growing up, especially in NES and SNES era, the idea of even beating a game was pretty rare, actually. It was almost just because games are so hard. There's plenty of games. Battletoads and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are two that come to mind immediately, where I've come to realize that I'll never see the end of the game, and there's plenty others. So I'm curious as to, you talk about separating games. These are the ones that I beat, and these are the ones that I haven't beat. How important was it for you to have that pile of completed games continually?
When I first started, it wasn't. It was just I wanted to play the games and have fun. And then one day, I don't know what did it. I beat a game. I couldn't even tell you what game it was that I beat at the time. And I just was like, how many games have I beat? And then I started separating them just so I can make the list. Mm-hmm. And then when I realized, I think I beat maybe I had a whole sheet of paper, whole notebook paper, one section, the whole front page done, and then I started a second line, and I was about halfway. So I don't know how many lines are on a notebook paper, maybe 40. So I had about 70 games that I had beaten out of the 100 or 200 games that I owned. But there was games that I just, like you said, there was games that I realized I'm never going to beat these games.
Yeah.
But there were certain games, like I'm looking on my shelf and I have a Dragon Warrior up there, and that was my first true RPG game that I ever had, and I beat that game. And that game roped me in, and it was like, I'm not stopping until I beat it. But at the time, when Dragon Warrior started to hit, Nintendo Power started to get a little bit better with helping you.
Yeah.
And strategy guides started hitting, where, that was a big portion of it. Like, the original, I think the first 3 to 5 years of the NES's life, you were on your own. You were out there on your own, and you were just trying to figure stuff out on your own. But then, the latter half of it is when the strategy guides started hitting. People just started getting better, and it was... Things started to change, I feel. And GamePro, and that's right, EGM started coming in, and like all these magazines. Like, I'd go to the mall to buy magazines just as much as I went to go buy games, because you were just trying to keep on top of all this stuff, Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
That's interesting that you mentioned that too, because the whole idea of talking about games, about learning about the industry and all this stuff becomes almost as enjoyable, if not even more enjoyable, than the games themselves, which lead us to podcasts and going on the internet and talking about all these things. I'm going to jump just a little bit here because I want to talk about your show. I was listening to it earlier today, and you guys managed to the Geek Cast. You guys managed to do something pretty special, and I think most podcasts try to do this and fail miserably. In that you strike this balance between this unapologetic passion for it, which obviously is here. We're talking about it today, but also very chill. Like, you're not like, it's not a forced, it's very natural, it's very genuine love for games, but it's not like forced on anybody, but it's also just, come on in, we're going to have a chat about video games. So I'm interested to learn about, like, where did the idea come from? The Geek Cast is probably like, it's like the Kleenex of podcast names, where just like that's what they should all be called. So tell me about like the origin of the Geek Cast and where you find these guys all around the world too.
Yeah, so that's the other. We're like the United Nations of podcasting. The crazy thing was the way it started for me was I always wanted a podcast. Just something about it I wanted to do. I was listening to Kevin Smith stuff. I was listening to Smodcast. I was listening to Hollywood Babylon. And they were the only two I really listened to. I was listening to Jay and Silent Bob Get Old a little bit, but it wasn't major. Kevin Smith was constantly, and he doesn't even now, he harps all the time. He urges everybody to podcast. And he would say how easy it was. And I'm like, it's not that easy. I don't know how to do it. I don't know the first steps. So my wife started YouTubing. And she kept telling me, like, I'm horrible at this, but you would be so good at this because you can talk and you can find things to talk about. And I'm like, I'm not messing with that. Like, I'm overweight. I'm old. Nobody wants to hear from an old guy talk about video games and all that. So I'm not getting on the camera. Finally, one day I was sitting there and she finally hit me at the right time. And I was like, you know what? I need something to do. I'm going to start doing this. So I start doing the YouTube channel and doing the Geek Guru.
Yep.
And the name alone strikes a lot of like, man, you got balls to sit there and call yourself a guru or something. But that's why I always say, like, I'm a geek. My catchphrase is geek, definitely guru, I don't know. Because it's more or less like, I know I'm a geek. I don't know how good I am at knowing be all, end all the stuff. So I start doing that stuff, and then the Amiibo craze hits.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm in the thick of it, man. And I'm doing videos about Amiibo and doing hunt videos, and I'm getting extra Amiibo that people can't get. And at the time, there was this huge issue with scalpers and people and resellers, whatever you want to call them. It doesn't matter. But these scumbag motherfuckers that would buy up these things and then double, triple, $80, $90 for a $12 figure, and I started giving them away, and I wouldn't sell them. And it immediately put this spotlight on me in a couple of the different Amiibo groups that I was in, because I was like, they were like, wow, man, you're actually giving these away. You're not selling them or anything. And when I say giveaway, like, some people go, oh, well, you were just trying to do it to promote your channel. Sometimes I was, yes.
For sure.
Other times...
That's way better, though.
Yeah, but other times, there was time I would just give them away. And I still, to this day, just, somebody says I need one, I have not charged a single person for an amiibo that I've gotten. And that's how I met Toby and Alan. And what happened was I had been talking to them a little bit through the amiibo channels and NVC amiibo group. And Toby had said the gold Mario amiibo was coming out. And that was only in the United States. And Alan lives in Scotland, Toby lives in England. And they both had messaged me the same day and was like, hey, if there's any way you can get me one, I would love you for life. And I'm like, well, let me see what I can do. Because I always need, like, love affairs overseas, just in case I go on vacation for my wife. It's always nice to have, men that are in love with me. So, yeah. So they're like, so they're basically like, okay, it's a little weird, but whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just joking. But I'm like, so I strategize this game plan. And what I do is in my real life, I am a shipping manager of a large floral company. So I have guys at work for me. And I went to these guys and I said, look, I need help with something. They're like, what's that? I said, what are you guys doing tonight? They're like, nothing. I said, I need you guys to go to Walmart at midnight and get me these amiibo. I'll pay you for them, no big deal, whatever. Just get them for me. So I had it lined up where I had like two guys going to Walmart's here in Jersey. Meanwhile, me and my wife were going to New York City to the Nintendo World Store to get them. I got them. Got everybody one. I think when everything was said and done, I actually gotten 6 gold Marios. And
so you're at the Nintendo store in New York the day that it drops?
Yes.
Nice. So what's that? Yes. What's the place like? Is there a lineup around the block? I've been to Nintendo World when a Pokemon game dropped,
dude,
and it was lined up around a New York City block, and then on the outside, like the other side of the street, around that side too. So I've seen when something crazy goes around that store. Yeah. It's insane.
You got it. And we didn't know this at the time, but not only did they have Gold Mario, they had every single store exclusive at that time. So Rosalina and Meta Knight and all the ones that people were going crazy for, couldn't get, they had them all. So when I walked up to the register with my wristband on and said, Gold Mario, you owe them to me, they said, is there anything else you want? I looked behind them and I was like, I'll take one of every single one. And I actually did a giveaway and I gave every single one away. But I kept one Gold Mario for myself. I sent one to Alan. I actually have a video, if you're interested. Go on the YouTube channel, scour through. I I surprised Toby and sent him the Gold Mario. And he had no clue that I was sending it to him. And I basically told his wife to like set up the video camera and record it when he opens the box, and he flips it. Yeah, he flips out and stuff.
I love it.
And there's background story where he had a trade in place. He had a trade in place for Robin and Lucina because he had extra Robin and Lucinas, where he was going to trade those to a guy, and the guy was going to give me a Gold Mario. And what happened was I lied to him. I went on my wife's Facebook account and messaged his wife and said, "Hey, Bobby said that Toby got a couple extra Robin and Lucinas. I just got an email from GameStop. They canceled our orders for them. Is there any way Toby would sell them to me? Because Bobby's going to be devastated. He can't get them." I totally lied. He cancels. This is how good a guy he is. He cancels the deal with the guy and then says, "I'll give them to you." And,
oh my gosh!
And basically, I mean, we screwed somebody out of Lucina, but I didn't want him. But I didn't want him to get. I didn't want him to make the deal for the Gold Mario. So that's in there. So anyway. Man, I'll take the long way around the story. You got the most long-winded guest ever.
This is the best. This is my absolute favorite. I'm going to tell everybody this is my favorite episode so far. It's getting better and better every week.
So basically what I did was we become friends after that. Obviously, we just all had the same common interest. So then Toby starts saying to me, like, hey, look, I'd like to do some videos for you, if you don't mind. I'm like, yeah, what do you got? And we're going back and forth, and he's like, I'm going to start doing some amiibo stuff over here. I'll send you the videos, you put them on your channel. So then we start this whole thing called Toby's Take, where he's basically giving his man on the street in the UK of what the amiibo life is over there. Because in the United States, we knew it was crazy.
Yep.
We also started to cause a craze over there because people here were starting to buy them up over there. So because it was so difficult to get them here, we were making it difficult on people overseas to go get them as well. So he starts explaining all that, and that's basically how the series started going back and forth. Now, Alan, at the time, he has a podcast that he's doing called Full Fat Gaming. And it's him and his buddy Scott, and they're doing that. And then I hook up, now I'm just doing the channel at the time, but I hook up with James and Josh Brandt from Life of Gaming Podcast.
Yep.
And we start to kick around the idea of, like, why don't we form this super group? And
like the audio slave of
basically, like,
video games.
Well, what it's going to be is, like, because at the same time, we also got together with Corey from DNA.
Yep.
And the idea is Corey was doing writing. Corey was writing articles. Josh and James were doing podcasts, and I was doing videos. And we thought, like, if the three of us come together, we're like the Justice League of video games, and we all have something to offer, and we all help each other. We come up with this name called DNA, and we're going to roll with it, and we're going to go. And things just don't work out because timing, scheduling, everybody's kind of starting to go in different directions. Egos start to hit a little bit. I'm not going to lie. There's some egos there. Definitely from me on my end. Definitely from Corey and stuff. And there's some issues. It breaks apart. It doesn't really go the way it should. I tell Corey and James, because me and James are like, we don't want to do this anymore. We kind of want to do our own thing. We don't want to have to be constrained to be like, well, what's best for DNA? Because we're trying to build our brands, so to speak. You know what I mean? So we tell Corey, keep DNA, because he had, I think it was called D-Pad Gamercast or something. And I said, look, DNA is a better name. Take that name, keep it, go with it, don't worry about it. So we all kind of went our own separate ways. I'm still collaborate where I can and help out where I can. I totally believe in the Life of Gaming Podcast, so I support them guys full force, help them where I can. So more or less, at the same time, I get it in my mind, I want to start doing a podcast.
Yeah.
So what I do is, and now I have other friends, because I got Alan on one side, he's got his podcast, and then I got the Warp Whistle podcast with Mark, and I go to these guys and I go, I got an idea for a group. Again, kind of like a super group thing, but not really at all. Not on the same level as we were going to do with DNA. And I go, we're going to call it Team Geek. And basically what it is we'll promote each other, all that stuff, and we'll push each other. I guess the best way to explain it is, if you saw American Pie, there's a section where they're all trying to get laid, and they're like, we're like weightlifting partners. We're going to push each other. It's the same philosophy. Oh, yeah. We're lifting buddies. We're going to push each other where we need to push, and we're going to help each other and all that stuff. So that's what we started to do. I then at the same time go, I want to do a podcast. So I go to Toby, and I go, look, I really want to do a podcast. And Toby had done a podcast a long time ago. I think he did like 2 episodes and it died or whatever. And I was like, I was like, listen, I'm really serious about this. I want to do this. I got an idea. It's called the Geek Cast. Because I just thought, I'm the geek guru. Podcast, it works. That's where the name came from. He loved it. And he said, all right, let's do it. So we do about 2 episodes. And at the same time, Alan's podcast starts to fall apart. Now, as Alan's podcast is falling apart, I tell Toby, why don't you go to work for Toby or go to work for Alan? Because I'm still trying to figure out our podcast and get it up and running. What's the best way to do it? Because I don't know nothing. I don't know how to record it. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. He goes over, he does a couple episodes with Alan. Alan's got a problem where he's a police officer. So his schedule's all over the board. And he can't be on with this Full Fat Gaming. So Toby comes over, me and him start doing the podcast, and I go, look, why don't we pull Alan in? Because you guys did 1 or 2 episodes, and your chemistry's really good. Why don't we pull Alan in and make it the 3 of us, and we'll go with it. So I go to Alan. Alan's like, that's perfect. This way I can pop in when I want to pop in, and I don't feel obligated, and I don't have to worry about all this other stuff. We actually have a 4th person coming. This is the first time we've been talking about this. So,
Scoop.
Yes, it's basically a scoop. There you go. There is a girl. She's a YouTuber. Her channel, her name is Holly. You can find her on Halcyon Holly is the YouTube channel, I believe. But she does like video game podcast. She's big in Pokemon. She has, if you look up Holly Fantasy Life, she pops up.
Okay.
And she's big into Fantasy Life. So she's going to be joining us because Alan, again, where he can't be there all the time. So what's going to happen is Holly will come in. It'll be 3 people at all times. So Holly will come in occasionally, and then Alan. Unfortunately, I'm stuck to the point because they're all from overseas. So,
Right.
I'm the only American in the group, and it kind of gets a little overwhelming, especially when they start teaming up on me and stuff. And I could barely understand what they're saying sometimes. No, just kidding.
No,
they're all good people. Yeah,
but seriously, nobody knows.
Nobody can understand what I'm saying, especially when Alan gets going on.
I might have to swing in and grab Holly for the first. I haven't had a female guest on this show yet, so I might have to
get her.
Yeah, that sounds great.
She is very knowledgeable. She's younger.
Nintendo fan, I'm guessing.
Huge Nintendo fan.
Yeah.
But she PC games. I think she has a PS4. She also has the Nintendo stuff, but she's a huge Pokemon fan.
Yeah.
And she's a huge Fantasy Life fan. Like she also does like tasting videos. They are the funniest things you'll ever see. Like she'll get candy and start eating the candy, and it's just hilarious. Like it's cheap garbage candy, but the facial expressions and all that, it's ideal. It's perfect. Yeah, but she would be great. Yeah, definitely. So so we got the podcast going.
Love it.
And then that's where I basically was like, look, I want to still have some YouTube stuff going. And I'm actually getting to the point now, like once my Valentine's Day holiday is done at work, I'm going to start doing more of the YouTube videos again. And because it kind of hit me in a weird place, because a lot of my YouTube videos were podcast topics. You know what I mean? I was talking to a camera, but the problem is like when you're doing a podcast for an hour, and it's a little different than what you're doing. You're basically just grabbing somebody and going, let's talk about your life, let's talk about gaming and all that stuff. But when you're doing a podcast where you're actually talking about topics that are current, it makes it a little tough sometimes to do other stuff, because especially when it's a slow week, it's like I used to be able to pop out like 3 to 4 videos a week about different things going on, and now it's like I try to save those topics for the podcast, so it becomes a catch-22 a little bit.
Yeah, so you're managing all the content that you're putting out there.
Yeah.
So way back, we were talking about. You were talking in the past tense about how you had all of your games,
God.
I'm guessing that there's some heartbreak that happened when
now
you had to when you had to part with those games.
Yeah, now it's more upsetting. Then it wasn't so upsetting because as a kid trying to acquire more games and new games, you just realize that like, hey, I'm not playing these things, and you never think that like, hey, I want to save these for the rest of my life. And we were having a yard sale, and I just said to my mom, I was working at the time, and I was like, do me a favor, sell my games. And she's like, you're not selling them. I said, Mom, look, sell my Nintendo, my NES. I still have the Super Nintendo. We're fine. Yeah. Don't worry about it. And at the time, like, Nintendo was starting to do stuff like I never played the original Zelda no more. I never played Zelda 2 anymore. The Mario, they came out with Mario All-Stars, so I was basically like, I had
you had backwards compatibility.
Yeah, to some degree, like I had what I needed to get by. So I just sold everything, and I think I sold everything for I got like $150 for everything.
Oh no!
That's the kicker. That's what hurts you, because now when I look back and I go, man, I know what I had. I had original Final Fantasy. I had Dragon Warrior. I had Punch Out, Karate Kid, Karate, Kung Fu. Like, I had everything. Anything you can imagine. Ring King. Like, everything. I had them all. And so now looking back, I go, oh, what the hell was I thinking? But at the time, I think I was like 15, 16 years old. You don't think about that stuff, And then the same thing happened with the Super Nintendo. I bought the Nintendo 64, and then I flushed out the Super Nintendo, So you kind of... Nowadays, I look and I go, man, I would love to have everything back. I don't know that I would, or I'm able to get everything back. My feeling is let me try to acquire the things that really meant something to me.
Yeah.
So I bought Dragon Warrior again because that was the first RPG I ever played. And I played with my best friend all the time. So I thought, I'm going to get that one. I'll probably try to... The problem now is, like, to buy games complete in box. They're so expensive.
Yeah.
that's where I kick myself, because I go, damn it, you stupid ass. If you'd have just been smart about this stuff and hung on to it. But at the time...
Yeah, how do you have foresight about something like that?
Don't.
And that's the other thing, too. Like, you're a guy who's giving amiibos away that are worth hundreds of dollars, right? Like, it's not like you would have turned around and sold these things in a box, right? It's for you. It's for you.
And when I was a kid, like, I collected comic books. I still do to some degree. But, like, I looked at those. Comic books and baseball cards were my two big things as a kid. Collecting.
Love it.
And I was like, they're going to be worth money. They're going to be worth thousands of dollars when I get older. Video games are junk. They're not going to be worth nothing. You play them and it's done. You get rid of them. That was my thinking then. I never... and now, looking back, the video games are worth money and the baseball cards are worth nothing. You know? So
yeah, right.
It's like... It's a strange time you live in, but you just don't think. And not even that. Like, I just... It's like anything.
It's because comic books and baseball cards already had their time where people were kind of making money off of holding on to them. So you thought about that because that's what people have done.
At that time,
with video games. But the other thing too is like with video games, like you have this like self-perpetuating like economy in your own little world. You're like, well, I'm going to use my video games to pay for future video games. You don't look at, you don't diversify your portfolio as a 10-year-old in video games.
And that's where GameStop became really bad for me. Like, like I was using games, like I traded in my GameCube and to fund my Wii, and my Wii to fund my PS3 and all that stuff. And it was like it wasn't until I got the Wii U that I was just finally I got fed up and I'm like, why do I keep doing this? Why do I go to GameStop and give them 10-15 games and they give me $10-15? This is ridiculous. And honestly, people can say what they want about Nintendo, and they can bash and rag on Nintendo all they want. But you know something? I could take a Nintendo game in there and get top dollar for a Nintendo game. Where I'll take Last of Us in there, and they'll give me $7 if I'm lucky.
Yeah, one of the best games of all time. We already talked about.
Yeah, exactly. But if I take Super Mario Galaxy, I'm getting $30 easy for that thing.
Yeah,
so
that's crazy.
That's the one nice thing about Nintendo games if you just do decide to do trade-ins. But when the Wii U came out, I was buying all my stuff physically, and they offered that digital deluxe program. And I first tried to sign up for it, and I was like, I don't know what this is, whatever. And it didn't go through. For whatever reason, my Nintendo ID wasn't lining up with the account. It didn't go through. I was like, forget it, whatever. So then I found out, oh, wait, it is working. So I looked, and there was a couple of like indie games that I bought. And I saw that I was earning credit. The minute I saw that, I said, that's it. I went and bought a external hard drive, and I started downloading everything on the Wii U. And when I tell you I utilized that program to the maximum, I mean, I got hundreds of dollars back from Nintendo just on digital games, and that's the way I went. I just went 100% digital. Two reasons. One, I was getting a little bit of money back. Two, I can't trade them games in, and I can't get rid of those games. They're stuck with me and stuck with that console. And I'm like, that's what so now I finally got it through my head after 30 years of gaming. Don't trade in your stuff. Keep your stuff. Because you always get that. Because that's the one thing. And there's not a single person in this world that can say this isn't the fact. This is why you shouldn't trade in your games. 6 months after you trade in that game, you want to play it again. It never fails. It could be the biggest piece of garbage in the world. 6 months later, you go, man, I would really like to just give that a second shot or try it again, but you can't unless you go pay full price. And that's why I basically said that's it. Enough's enough. No more of this stuff.
Which is so silly. What about space? Imagine all those games. You're talking about hundreds of NES games, hundreds of Super Nintendo games. Do you have somewhere to put all that stuff if you still had them, or would that have been an issue where you're thinking maybe you're in a different place now as an adult? Maybe I don't have space for all because that's kind of where I'm building shelves so I can stock old games. I'm not sure.
I'm with you there.
I'm gonna play.
That's because when I started, I think I moved out the first time when I was 25 years old. So I moved out, and then I was gone for a year, and I came back home, and I stayed with my mom for another 3 years, and then I moved out. But like in between all those moves and stuff, that was the other reality. Again, like what am I keeping? What am I getting rid of? I got to pack up all this stuff. I got to move it, and it was just like, man, screw it. And your perspectives on life, I think, change a little bit too. when you start to go through and you start to realize, like, you can call right now for me a midlife crisis or whatever you might want to call it at this point. My dad will all the time, when he comes over, he breaks my balls and says, "Oh, you're like a 15-year-old again." And I'm like, you know what, man? It's what keeps me young. I'm like, I don't want technology to pass me by. That's my biggest fear. Like, I look at my dad, and my dad, when I was a kid, had the best stereo equipment, VHSs, Betamaxes. Everything was top of the line. Everything ran through each other. You know how to hook. He can't even hook up a high-definition TV no more.
Yeah.
He can't even go to the store and buy one. He's got to ask me to come with him so he can buy it. I don't want to be... this is my true belief. The day technology passes you by and you become dependent upon other people, part of your life, you die a little bit. And that may sound harsh to some realities, but it's the truth. When you can't... I want to be the 80-year-old that's still texting or doing whatever. So I'm constantly staying on top of this stuff because I want to keep my finger on the pulse or whatever. My wife, we joke all the time. She's younger than me, but all the time she'll be like, she'll talk about the 80s and different stuff like that. And like when we're going for a ride, we got Sirius satellite radio, and like I'm putting on like Sirius Now and all the new stuff, and she's like, "This is garbage. Put on the 80s." And I'm like, "You're stuck in a time warp." And I'm like, I know that I can at least have conversations with younger people because, and that's not taking anything from her or anything like that, but I don't want to be that person that doesn't know what's going on in the world. I want to...
Well, in a way, you end up forcing yourself to talking about the same thing for the same decade for the next 60 years.
Yeah.
So that's a huge part of it.
Now I look at myself and I go, okay, playing video games, I'm in a different mindset. And I looked at it and went, video games is where it's at for me. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Because I think you hit that point where you go, everybody that's listening to me probably is in their 20s to 30s. Listen to me, take my words, believe what I'm saying. You're going to hit that point in your life where you're going to go, I'm too old for this stuff. I need to grow up. I need to become an adult. I need to become my parents. I need to go get, you may already have a job, but I need to take my job serious and all that stuff. When I clock into work and I do my job to the best of my ability, and my boss is happy with me. I get raises, I get promotions, I do all that stuff. When I clock out and I come home, I go back to being like I was like a kid and having a good time and playing video games. I look back at my life, and the most cherished time in my life and the best times of my life is when I was a little kid playing video games. Why should I give that up? Because adults tell me I should? Because that's the proper thing to do? I want to be happy. I want to have a good time in my life. That's what you live life for. It means nothing if you're not having a good time with life and you're not enjoying yourself. So I look at it and go, my best times are playing games, talking to my friends. Like when I sit down for an hour a week and I do the Geek Cast, even right now, this hour, whatever we're at right now that we've been talking, best time of the week for me. Best time of the week for me because I'm talking about stuff that I love and enjoy, and I'm having a good time with it. And it's the same philosophy. It's the same philosophy on the other side. You don't want to get stuck into that place where you get up, you go to work, you come home, you pay the bills, you go to bed, you get up, you go to work. That's boring. It's garbage. Yeah. Be happy with what you're doing and make that realization that, like, I'm doing this for the rest of my life. That's when you go, I'm not getting rid of my stuff. I'm keeping my stuff. Come hell or high water, I'm keeping everything I have. And that's when I was like, I got all this stuff, and I started to create this game room. I mean, you can see it, the people listening can't see it, but I got the game room, I got all this stuff up, and I'm like, I'm going to make it look nice. And that's the other thing, people will go, well, how do you get your wife to let you do all this stuff? If I had all my stuff cluttered, laying all over the place, it wouldn't happen.
Yep, yeah, you're neat.
Everything's
since you were 10 years old.
Organized, together. And when you do it like that, people will accept it and be more willing to check it out and be like, okay, this is fine with me. She never has once said to me, like, you're not allowed to do that. Why? Because she knows that, like, anybody could come in this room and it doesn't matter how old they are, you're like, oh my God, this is cool. Because it's put together nicely. And that's what you have to, there's certain things you got to do, but whatever. It is what it is.
Well, that's why I asked you earlier about, what got you into podcasting and all that kind of stuff. What you were just talking about And the way that you're able to articulate that is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I love doing podcasting, is because I think that what you just said goes through everybody's minds without them even realizing it. That I don't want to, like, it takes a podcast, it takes a long form conversation to kind of drill down to, like, what are we talking about here? Why am I doing this? And I think that you have to give it some critical thought about, I don't want to be just waking up, going to work, coming home, paying the bills, go to bed. I don't want to get stuck in that. No. And at the end of the day, like, what makes you happy? If it's this, awesome. And we live in a time now where it's not only just like tolerable, but it's accepted. It's just the way that things are, because we all grew up loving this stuff, and now we're the ones, we
rule the world.
Well, so here's a last aside that I'll take it down. And I don't know if this is something I tell some people. It's so funny that I have, like I mentioned before, very few vivid memories of my life because my brain is just, I don't know, maybe I've been hit in the head too many times. Possibly. But it's very possible.
It's the milk they made you kids drink.
I know. That stops with my generation. Yeah. We're on, so grade 2, we're in its school assembly or something. I don't even know what it was for, Thanksgiving or something. And we had some sort of guest speaker, and they were talking about, they said the word that all adults will say to every kid, every generation. They say, you will be the leaders of tomorrow. Oh. And I remember grade 2, I'm 7 years old, and I remember thinking to myself, are you sure that's such a good idea? Yeah. Like, we don't know what we're talking about. Little now, whatever it is, 30 years later, I grow up and I realize, just because you're an adult doesn't mean you know what you're talking about. You're surrounded by all the kids you went to elementary school with. They just got some money and jobs.
I'll take your story and I'll expand upon it just a little bit. I took that comment and I went to my grandfather's house and I said that to him, and he started to laugh, and he goes, I pray that I'm dead and gone by the time your generation's running this world. He said, because you guys are screwed. And I was like, whatever, we'll run it 10 times better. Now I look at my friends that are, and I go, we're screwed. You guys are screwing the pooch on this one.
Well, I think your grandpa and I are kindred spirits. We're on the same page with that one, because I look around, especially in the States, I'm not sure if it's as bad as here, but like in Canada, retail stores are closing by the week. Yeah. We've got, sides of Best Buy that are dropping, like big name. Target is gone. Yeah. All these huge Sony store. I'm not sure if you guys have that, but anyway, there's all these different things that are like pillars of retail here, and they're just gone. Yeah. And so this is me thinking back when I'm in grade 2 of we're now managing these retail places, and we're failing the entire world because we don't know how to run them.
But something, Sean, in all honesty, everything runs in cycles. It's the circle of life, man. It's the way it is. You think about it and you go, why are Best Buys closing? Well, because they've got a Best Buy and they've got this other whatever electronic store here and this one here, and they can't there's not enough to go around for everybody to open a store and everybody to be successful. Something's got to give, So when the stuff falls apart, I felt like, man, we're getting off on a tangent now. But I felt like the best thing that could have happened was the United States government not save the auto industry when it collapsed. Because I felt in the ashes, the phoenix rises. And something else will come up. There'll be another car manufacturer that will survive and will step up. And we're not going to not have cars. It's not going to happen. But when that all crashes, the next company will come up, because you got Google making cars and all these other companies making cars now. Maybe because the United States saved the auto industry in the United States, it cut Google off a little bit, from coming up and starting to sell cars quicker or whatever. You don't know, you know what I mean? But my feeling is always like, it's a circle of life.
I'm totally oversimplifying like what isn't actually, like there are so many forces at work here, but I just often think, but back to the point of just like when we grow up and now that we're sort of in charge, it's just a funny dynamic.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, man, it's been, before we close things off, I want to confirm.
Yes.
You're on PlayStation, you're on Nintendo, you're all over the place. Tell everyone where people can connect with you, play some games, and find you on the internets.
Got another hour? No, it's
right.
You can find my YouTube stuff, The Geek Guru on YouTube. You can follow me Instagram, Twitter at The Geek Gurus. on Facebook, Geek Guru, follow me there. On Nintendo, if anybody wants to play games, that list is pretty much packed. But if you send me a message, I'll delete somebody else and add you if you would feel like playing one night. That's Paoli, Paoli 8280, and then on PlayStation Network, it's Bobby_Comics. And that's it. That's all I got, I think.
That's great, man.
So I'm all over the place.
Oh,
but let me say something before. I've already taken like an hour and something of your show.
Let's just keep going.
We're just gonna, I'm taking over your show, right? We're just gonna keep going with this. I just want to tell anybody this. Anybody that's listening to this right now, I pray that you do two things. You go check out everything that Sean is doing, because he's doing great stuff. He's doing God's work for us lowly podcasters and getting us the limelight a little bit. But also, if you are doing podcasts and things like that, shoot him a message, get on this show. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I've guested on quite a few shows, and this has been by far one of my most favorite episodes that I've done for somebody, just because I don't know why. It was great. We're talking about stuff that I really enjoy talking about. It was carefree. You cut the chains off my jaws and just let me go, which everybody that knows me knows that's a mistake, but you braved it and you were bold. Just kidding. Not kidding about the me not shutting up, because I'm definitely a long-winded person. But honestly, like, check out Sean's stuff. Follow him, Sean Capri, like the pants. He says that all the time on Twitter. Check him out, seriously. But he's a good guy. Like, when I sent him the message and said, hey, I'd like to come on the show, I was worried that he'd be like, you're a nobody. I'm not bringing you on the show. Are you nuts? Then I realized he brought Josh Brandt on, and I thought, if he brought Josh Brandt on, he'll bring anybody on. This guy's desperate. It's
open season.
I love you, Josh. I'm just kidding. But, no, seriously, check out everything that Sean's doing.
Oh man, well, if I don't do the video on my PC here, but if you could see me, I'm just totally red. You've absolutely warmed my heart.
That's good.
Thank you, man. That's very kind words. I really appreciate
I don't mean any of it. I'm just hoping to get a second invite
it's just
back.
Bullshit. Yeah, absolutely.
But just hoping that he'll be like, this guy's really awesome. I'm going to bring him back again. It's like, I could give two shits about you, Sean. Don't follow nothing. No, just kidding.
No, that's all right. I know what New Jersey's all about. Well, hey, actually, before we go, I do want to, maybe we could talk about this offline too, but I've got a friend of mine for Christmas. He gave me a gift card to Best Buy, which is great, but he also gave me a giant 200-pound box full of Nintendo Power. So I'm going to take some pictures of them. I don't know what to do with them. I think they're amazing. They're all in great shape, but they've been sitting ever since Christmas. I don't know. I'm in the, like we were talking about before with space. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these things, but I'll let you know. We'll work something out.
Yeah, let me know.
Maybe I could ship a couple your way. But that would be great, man. I really appreciate you coming by and chatting with us. We're just talking about old times, and that's what it's all about. I absolutely love it.
Indeed.
Man, I really wish I didn't hit the stop button, because we kept going. We stopped. We made it like that's the end of the show, and then we're like, oh yeah, that was great. That was a really good time. Thanks, blah blah blah. And then next thing we know, we're still talking like another hour later. So once again, looks like I've just made another internet friend. So thank you so much. He made me blush at the very end there. So that alone just makes this all worthwhile. Thank you so much, Bobby. Master Supreme Robert, as I was supposed to call you. So there you go. More commonly, of course, the Geek Guru. What a great name. He's been doing this a while, so go show him some love. Go download his podcast. Go subscribe. Find him on Twitter, as we talked about. I'll definitely be a new subscriber to the Geek Cast, and if you subscribe too, that's two of us, though. That's fun how that works. Thank you. What a great conversation. And thank you to you for, again, gracing us with your presence. Thank you for listening. And if you're still here, you might like what's actually happening on this podcast. So please, if you even like it just a little bit, hit subscribe, tell a friend, rate us on iTunes, find me on Twitter at Sean Capri. That's Sean like Connery and Capri like the pants. And let me know what you think is good or bad. We even have email, wethegamercast@wethenerdy.com. So send me some questions. Maybe we'll do some intro, outro, listener questions. That would be pretty fun. So hurry up, do that. Send me an email. And send me your fake sponsors like this one. This week's episode is brought to you by Spaceballs the Flamethrower. The kids love it. WeTheNerdy.com hosts this beautiful podcast, so be sure to go over there every single day and check out the video game reviews and opinion pieces and other nerdy goodies. There's also another podcast on that site called Game Over Man with Sean Messler from episode 13. He does one of my favorite podcasts that I'm definitely a subscriber to, and I talk in the group over there. You guys should go listen to that. Otherwise, this is now in your ears. Thank you again for listening, and I'll talk to you next Monday.